Well, hello there. Welcome to Online People Talking, or OPT as we like to call it. My name is Jen Barkin with Do You Convert? I am an online sales coach. I started to say online sales specialist. Used to be an online sales specialist, online sales coach. And this series is dedicated to enhancing the careers of the new home builder online sales specialist. We'll talk about real life challenges, stories, and solutions just for you. It's been a hot minute since I have been on here with you. It's been a crazy fall. Can anybody agree that it's been a little bit crazy? Go ahead and smash some hearts, give us some likes if you're feeling it just like me with school starting back. And we had our Pulse event, our DYC Pulse event last month in October, which was amazing. If you attended that, give us a shout out. The other thing that I had the pleasure of doing was speaking and attending the Women in Residential Conference, which if you've never attended that before, highly recommend. It was so great to be a part of it as a speaker, but also as an attendee. I took a lot of information away from it. It was really great. Speaking of inspiring, I cannot wait to introduce you to our special guest today on Opt-in, Kendall Barnes. Come on, Kendall, let's see your beautiful face. There she is. Kendall has been in the role of online sales with Hartford Homes for a little over a year now, but she actually started in the new home industry back in 2016 as an assistant sales associate with Richfield Homes. She was shortly promoted to marketing coordinator and online sales specialist all at the same time. So just let that sink in for a second. Marketing coordinator and online sales specialist. She has a degree in marketing from Ferris State University in Michigan. And she recently attended real estate school and got her real estate license and Realtor designation, which is pretty awesome. So welcome, Kendall.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. So I just have to say real quick before we kind of get into this, when I first met Kendall, it was like a breath of fresh air, just kind of just went through Hartford Homes. She restored my faith in all things online sales. So I've been able to get to know her and really work with her this last year. And Kendall is really good at being an online sales specialist, but she's really, really good at fostering relationships with her realtor partners. And that is what I wanted to bring her on Opt to talk about, because that can be hard. That can be really challenging at times for us as online sales specialists. And Kendall's really mastered it. And so she's going to talk about that today. But let's first I want to kind of get to know you guys, to kind of get to know Kendall. So give her a warm welcome, give her some hearts. She looks awesome today. Kendall, tell us a little bit about your builder, kind of where you're at, what kind of market you serve, so we can kind of get some context. Yeah.
Yes, so we are a local builder in Northern Colorado. We are second generation family owned and have been in business just in Northern Colorado for a little over 30 years now, which is super exciting. We build townhomes, alley load single family homes, traditional single family homes, patio homes, condos, you name it. We probably have built it. So yes. And we kind of range from like the low 300s to probably mid 6s right now.
Okay. So you've been at Hartford for a year. Is it just you, or do you have a team?
Yes, so it is just me.
Okay.
And I manage about 170 leads a month.
Okay. All right. So you're busy, just you, 170 leads a month. Do you work 7 days a week, or do you have some flex time in there or some days off?
Yeah, so Saturdays and Sundays, I'm more like on call, if you will, responding to leads like that. And then on Wednesdays, I take the day fully off. So our on-site sales team actually takes the phones on Wednesdays.
Okay, that's a question that I get a lot. is how to structure the day, especially in a solo situation. So for those of you out there, I think, let me ask you real quick, how did you arrive at Wednesday? Was it based on call volume, like lower call volume, or, how did you pick that day?
Yes. So we kind of looked at like a big snapshot of our calls and when we saw lower volume.
Mhm.
And that's how we ended up on Wednesdays. Also, Monday used to be the day that I took off, but everybody's just getting into the office on Mondays. So it seemed like we were kind
Yeah.
of missing out on a lot of that communication that happens the first day back after the weekend.
Yes.
So Wednesday kind of worked out well because we got 2 days in where we could really work that out and then come fresh Thursday morning when all realtors are setting up their showings for the weekend. So
Yes, Mondays and Fridays typically are the busy day, and Thursdays too. I just remember Thursdays being like a day that a lot of realtors were calling in.
yes,
Okay, so 170 leads a month that you're averaging. What is your overall online sales contribution?
yes. So for this year, we're right about 59% contributing to our overall sales, which is super awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Now, COVID, it's been a year. I'm honestly just sick of talking about COVID, but even before COVID, you were seeing at Hartford, you were seeing an increase in realtor activity, realtors reaching out to you, relo, things like that. So talk a little bit about kind of what you started seeing.
Yeah. So right now we have between probably an 80 to 85% co-op rate. So a lot of realtors bringing us our business, which is awesome. And a little over a third of our leads come directly from realtors calling in from the MLS or from listings. So we have a lot of realtors in our network here, and being a local builder, that is huge. We've created a great reputation to where we have those people coming back. So we, yeah, have a lot of realtors. We've seen a really hot market in Colorado overall in the entire year. And so with our inventory levels being so low, realtors are kind of almost forced to come to new home construction because there just aren't a lot of options out there, which is great for us.
Absolutely.
During COVID, we had a stay-at-home order, which affected realtors doing business, but not new home construction. And so during COVID, like the peak of COVID, we really saw a lot of partnerships happening then because realtors couldn't bring their buyers out, but we were able to kind of help facilitate that and keep things moving forward, which was awesome. And kind of now, not at the end of COVID, but where we're at now, we are seeing a lot of, yes, we're still seeing, I would say probably even more people relocating here than we were earlier on in the year, just because everybody's now being able to work remotely. And so their location doesn't matter as much and they want to get out of states that they don't want to live in. So we've got a ton of people moving from out of state right now.
Absolutely. Now, as online sales specialist, I hear and I can remember being an online sales specialist, and I was actually a realtor too. There's sometimes challenges that come with working with our amazing realtor partners. So talk to us a little bit about challenges that, you've seen over the past, year or whatever, working with our realtors.
Yeah, I would say there's kind of a handful of them, but they are very busy and move very quickly.
Yeah.
And so they don't like to spend a whole lot of time on the phone or talking to us. They sometimes don't know what their client is looking for, especially on relos, because they have never met them actually. So we run into a lot of them that have lots of properties to show. And so that kind of leads into the other challenge with that is just narrowing down a time for them to come out and commit to being there at a certain time.
Yes. So I'm super busy. I will try to stop by at some point today. I will try to bring them by at some point today. So that is definitely something that we hear, right? If you are hearing that, comment below, comment on the chat that you're experiencing that. So Kendall, how do you overcome that? How do you try to be that advocate, help them, show your value, get the appointment, talk to us. What are some pro tips?
Yes. So I like to acknowledge that I know how busy they are. So I'll usually say something along the lines of like, sounds like you have a really busy day ahead of you. And I know that our on-site sales team also tends to be really busy, and we want to ensure that we're being conscientious of your time. So, let's try to narrow down a time that would work for you guys so that we can make sure we have somebody available for the time that you're able to come out and just make the most of your time while you're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
From there, I will usually at least try to narrow it down to a window. And I think a lot of times agents are more likely to commit to that. So like, hey, I can come between 1 and 2. And then I will just set the expectation of like, hey, I'll send you a text with our on-site sales team's number on it too, as a group message.
I like that.
And when you're on your way or when you're at your showing right before us, just shoot us a text and let us know so that we're prepared for when you come over there. So that's usually it's kind of like a tentative appointment, but just getting them to commit to a window, and then the text helps. And we see a lot of agents that will at least send over like, hey, we're 10 minutes out or whatever.
Yes. So texting is huge with realtors. Wouldn't you agree? And I think like over communicating, like over confirming, sending a tour confirmation, but then also confirming, double confirming just to make sure.
We always throw the address in a text. So not only do we have our normal email handoff, but we'll put the address in a text message too, because again, they're busy and chances are really good. They're probably calling you in their car or whatever. They don't have a pen to write down the address. So we try to just make it as simple as possible to where all they have to do is click on it and pull it up that way too.
Yeah. What do you do about like the realtors who are, representing a relo buyer that they don't really know a lot of information about the buyer or their situation? Like, how do you navigate that? Because that's a hard one.
Yes, that is definitely a tricky one. I like to kind of tackle it more so of like, what other properties are you taking them to look at? Because from there, you can kind of at least make your own conclusions of what they're kind of looking for, get a better feel for it, and kind of the range, and also know how you stack up against those, or your on-site sales team can prepare themselves so that when they do come out, they can speak educatedly on whatever they were looking at prior to. So that's usually what I try to go for. Or I will try to nail down a time with the realtor of like, hey, when are you planning on connecting with your buyer to kind of chat through these details? And maybe we can connect for a couple minutes afterwards. So kind of I guess, an extra follow-up activity for myself to where, because most of them aren't just meeting the buyer out on site for the very first time, sometimes, but not most of the time. And so I think just, they usually have that on their calendar if they're reaching out and setting up showings. So I just try to set up an extra follow-up activity, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I mean, ultimately all you can do is try to get as much information as possible.
Following back up, like, hey, after you've had a chance to show them some properties, I'm sure you'll have a better understanding of what they're looking for. I'll be sure to touch base with you again after that. And just kind of circle back.
Yes. And the other thing is, like you said, really over communicating, right? And so really what our product is, so that as they're going through those showings prior, if what we offer isn't going to be the right fit, and I'll tell them that, like, hey, after you're starting to show and figure out, kind of narrow down what they're really looking for, if we're not the right fit, just let us know, because we don't want to waste our on-site sales team time or their time to bring a client out for 5 minutes and realize that they don't love what we have to offer or whatever. So that's
great. And the other thing that you said that is really good is, setting the expectation with the realtor, but also setting the expectation with your on-site team too, of over communicating with them. Have this realtor coming out, it's a relo, they don't know a whole lot, this is what I was able to gather from them. And just like you said, setting your on-site up for as much of a success as possible in that scenario. So you recently got your real estate license. Why did you decide to do that?
Yes. So it was kind of just a blessing in disguise that was placed in my hands, I guess. So Hartford wanted to bring all of their listings in-house so that we had maybe a little more control in terms of updating and verbiage and messaging and all of that. So they actually just wanted it for that purpose. But again, it ended up working in my favor too, just because it gave me a lot of additional knowledge to be able to connect with our realtor partners a little bit better.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of talk about that. Like, I think it was kind of an unexpected bonus. How is having your real estate license actually helped you?
Yeah. So it's helped me tremendously. It has changed my conversations that I have to have with prospects and that type of thing. So navigating that has been interesting, but with the realtor side of things, it's really just given me a little bit of street cred, if you will. You know, I can talk their lingo and kind of understand their world a little bit better, and know what they're going through or what maybe they're seeing on the resale side of things. So that's helped. It's also given me a greater understanding of the market. So I'm able to pull more data and stay up to date with the competition and resale, and attend their meetings so I kind of know what's going on behind the scenes of things too, which is helpful. And then probably how it's helped me the most is for prospects that are calling in of asking if they're working with an agent. And then calling the agent as soon as I'm done talking to the prospect to just say, hey, your client just called and was asking for information about this, and this is kind of what we chatted through, and keeping them in the loop. And so that's really helped my role a lot. And you don't just have to have your license to be able to do that, to connect with realtors, but they trust you a lot, and they really feel like you're not trying to steal their business, which I think is a concern for a lot of agents out there.
That's a really good point. Let's unpack that for just a second for those of you listening. One, you don't have to have, Kendall did decide to get that real estate license, and it was something that her company wanted to do. You don't have to have a real estate license to have a good working relationship with realtors. So even if you don't have your real estate license and you're in those conversations with prospects and you say, are you currently working with a realtor? And they say yes, then it's your due diligence to say, awesome, that's wonderful. Do you have their contact information? If they give it to you, then looping that realtor into your dialogue, like Kendall is saying, and reaching out and saying, hey, heads up, your customer just reached out to us, wants to set an appointment. I'm looping everybody into the conversation. It's really an important way to bridge the gap, and it makes everybody feel so much more inclusive moving forward.
Yes. So. And I also have found too that with those realtors in those scenarios, they're more inclined to then direct future buyers towards Hartford as well. Because they know that we're going to take care of their buyer, but also keep them in the loop too. And so, our policy is that an agent accompanies them by their second visit. And so we're a little bit flexible on that, but realtors have responded very positively to that because they want to be kept in the loop, but they're also busy. And so they might not be included on every customer's visit to every single community, because a lot of times people want to kind of wean those out before really bringing the realtor out with them and wasting the realtor's time. So
the key is communication. We keep saying that on all parts. One thing you said that is really important is, fostering that relationship so that they do continue to bring their buyers to you. One thing that we used to do when I worked at Rose and Womble Realty was we would make sure that any realtor that had brought a buyer to us and it was a successful transaction and successful, home buyer, everybody's happy, we would make sure we gave them some kudos and some free marketing on social. We would highlight them as our realtor partner, Kendall Barnes with Remax. Thank you so much for bringing your buyer, our happy homeowners. And so, as a realtor, you have to pay for your own marketing. You are an independent contractor and you have to pay for your own marketing. This was one way that our building companies could give back to them. And who doesn't want free marketing? Who doesn't want free shout outs on social media? So that was one way we could kind of foster those relationships and give back to them. So,
Yep. The other thing too, I think, is playing up their value to their prospect, or to their client too, right? So if you're not talking to the realtor themselves, being able to say like, oh my gosh, I know you're in great hands with them, or whatever, some sort of compliment, I think also is helpful. Goes a long way
absolutely.
for the agent and for also the buyer to be like, okay, I'm being represented.
Yeah, absolutely. So if if you're listening and you have a very heavy co-op percentage in your organization, I hope that this is giving you some valuable things to think about and some pro tips to think about. It's not for every market. Some of you listening might be like, we have a 10% co-op rate or a 0 co-op rate, and that's totally fine. But it can be challenging. And so, Kendall has mastered it and has done a really great job. So let's switch gears, and I have some fun questions for you. You ready? Some rapid fire questions. What is your favorite thing about being an online sales specialist?
Probably being able to just compete with myself. I mean, being the only person in the role is every month and every year, I'm just competing with my own numbers, and I am a competitor at heart. And so just being able to try to outpace myself from the year before or the month before is probably my favorite part there.
I love that.
And being in control of your income. That's an awesome thing, right? The more work that I put in, the more I'm going to financially benefit from it, which is always great.
Absolutely. What would you say is your biggest challenge?
Probably work-life balance, as probably every OSC would agree with. And I think the other thing with that too is, knowing how successful you want to be and the work that is required to be at that level of success, right? And so sometimes that requires compromise or sacrifice or whatever, but that's probably the hardest one, of just really setting the boundaries of, okay, I'm done at this time and I need to enjoy myself.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you stay fresh and passionate then? If it's a stressful work-life balance, how do you stay rejuvenated?
Yes. Well, I really like to just learn, and I think that that's what excites me, because it just gets my brain rolling. And the more fun you have working, the less it feels like work, which is great. And so this role is so unique because you get to just try new things and be a little creative with your follow-up and whatever. So I listen to a lot of webinars and read books and articles and blogs and all the things.
That's awesome. How do you prevent just burning out?
Yes. I think early on, that's something that I really struggled with, and now I've kind of figured that out. But really, when you take your time off, to truly take your time off and not look at the phone and whatever. So that's probably the most important thing. Setting boundaries with your sales team, with your prospects, with everybody, making sure everyone's on the same page. And then really just keeping my eyes on the prize. That's, I guess, the best way of putting it. Like, what's my goal and how am I going to get there?
And I really like what you said about constantly learning. Always looking for, I think I remember one time you emailed me and were like, what are some webinars that I should attend? When I got that email, I was like, I love this, because it's easy to just get kind of stuck in our own little silo world and just keep doing the same things over and over again. But that's so true. You've got to feed your brain. You've got to constantly insert yourself in our industry. And there's so many cool people to learn from that are out there. So
I think it's also interesting and beneficial, again, having kind of the marketing background of looking outside of the industry too, because sometimes home building is a little bit behind. the curve on some of the other stuff that's out there. So I think it's always important to just pay attention to other things that are out there and what other industries are doing, because a lot of times you can incorporate that and it's going to help you stand out from what everybody else is doing.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Okay, get in your DeLorean and go back to the future and to your brand new online sales self. What advice would you give somebody that's just starting out into this role?
Just to be consistent. The more consistent you become in your processes and your follow-up, the more successful you'll become. And really the amount of potential that's probably in your pipeline right now that's just sitting there is more than you could ever even imagine. So just being consistent and doing the right things every single month, even if it feels like it's not paying off, it will.
We could do a whole other session on prospecting and long-term follow-up with you, because you have really done a great job with that. And I love what you just said there, in that one, it's all about process. Two, if you feel like, okay, things seem a little bit slower right now, yes, you have a whole database of people that you can work and that you can reach back out to and try to resuscitate. So don't always look for the new. Go back to what you have. Go back to the basics of process and things that you kind of need to be doing. That's a great advice. What is one tool that you currently use that you can't live without?
Okay, I'm really torn on that. So between Lasso and our on-site sales team, and I know that probably sounds a little strange, but they help so much in just making sure things are running smoothly and providing a lot of good feedback for me so that I can continue to improve too, right? Because you don't always know what you're missing, or maybe I should have asked one more question or whatever. So I don't know if they're really a tool, but I would consider them a tool or a resource, I guess. And then Lasso is like my brain. I would not be able to function without it.
Right. I know. Thank goodness.
Yes.
What is one thing that either professionally or personally that you started doing during COVID that you will continue doing when things get back to normal? I don't know. Like, if are we even saying that anymore? I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say really just focusing on creating the good habits in the slow times. And so that's your time to really create whatever you want. And then be able to carry that in once things get busy again, because trying to create a new habit while you're barely keeping your head afloat is not the time to do that, I don't think. So I think, during COVID, there were definitely days that were quiet, or you had to figure out what else you could do. So I tried to really focus my time on creating those good habits during that time that I'll continue on prospecting or refreshing my templates or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like some days were like drinking from a fire hose, like, oh my gosh, like just trying to stay afloat. And then other days it was like, okay, what's next? Or like, what do I need to be doing now? Kind of. And so that's great advice, of just take advantage of the times that you have that maybe feel a little bit slower. So that when it is crazy, you have the very best practices in place. We talk a lot about, work those muscles right now, work your muscles so that come spring market, you're going to be ready to rock and roll. Well, thank you so much, Kendall.
Thanks so much for having me.
I loved your insight. It was really, really helpful. If you guys liked Kendall, smash some hearts. She's amazing. Check her out. I'm sure she'll reach out to her at Hartford Homes. I'm sure she would love to talk with you. If you have questions for her, actually put it in the chat if you have any questions, and we can answer those. Thank you guys so much for joining Kendall and I on Opt, Online People Talking. For more great articles, blogs, events, all the latest and greatest information, you can check out duconvert.com and Market Proof Marketing podcast, hosted by Kevin Oakley and Andrew Peak. Hope you all have an amazing rest of your week. Take care.